Emotional abuse doesn't leave bruises, but it can leave everlasting scars internally, sometimes for a lifetime. In this video, we're going to discuss 5 hidden signs that you or somebody you care for may be struggling with emotional abuse. Hey friend, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, and I have spent the past 27 years helping thousands of people in behavioral health, mental health, and personal development. And during my day gig, I work as a program manager for an inpatient psychiatric hospital. And hence the reason I wanted to discuss this topic specifically is because I'm just absolutely dumbfounded on how many people are still going through these challenges and how many individuals I work with, both men and women, though it is predominantly female, that are struggling with emotional abuse. Have you ever walked around where you feel like you're walking on eggshells? And then if you say or do something that you're going to set somebody off? Well, those are some telltale signs of emotional abuse, and we're going to get to them in individually very shortly. But I really wanted to emphasize, why is this such an important topic? People who struggle in their lives, depending on whatever the issues are that they're dealing with, when you introduce an emotional abuse, a controlling factor, an individual, it could be a relationship with a friend, a family member, it could even be an employer, somebody at work. When you are dealing with something like emotional abuse, the significance of that stifling you and stopping you from becoming your personal best is exponential. This grows consistently over time, to the point where you feel paralyzed, almost a learned helplessness. And in this video, again, we're going to discuss 5 hidden signs. In part 2 of this video, we're going to discuss 5 solutions to helping you when you're overcoming with emotional abuse. So let's kind of dig right into this, okay? What are some of the signs when it comes to dealing with emotional abuse? And I'd like you to think about this for yourself for a minute. We talked about eggshells, having somebody tell you something and you know it's not true, but they're looking at you like you have lobsters coming out of your head and you are absolutely wrong because it is absolutely true. But you know in your heart, you're like, and then you start to second question yourself. And then as you question yourself, that individual asserts even more control over you. That term is known as gaslighting, and that is absolutely one of the most significant factors and certainly a telltale sign that you are dealing with emotional abuse. It is a sign of control and manipulation, and it absolutely can do significant damage to yourself, to your loved ones, the people in your life, and of course, any relationships that you have. Because even those who struggle in emotional abuse and they get out of that relationship, they deal with the consequences of that abuse for years to come. I was literally working with a woman not too long ago, and she had struggled with this challenge for years. All of her relationships ended up being fractured, or she was just walking out of it because of her past history of dealing with this, or a lack thereof of actually dealing with it and coming to terms with it. So she always would leave herself completely shelled. In other words, she would be encased where she was not ever going to leave herself vulnerable. And as a result, she could never have any real close relationships. That includes friends, but also romantic relationships as well. So let's talk about some signs that really are significant when it comes to emotional abuse. So the first sign here we have, you constantly doubt yourself. This goes alongside what we were just talking about a minute ago. This is the gaslighting effect. This is where you truly think that somebody is right and you are wrong, even though deep down in your heart, you know that you're absolutely right, or at least you think you are. And then again, you start to doubt yourself. You have a situation, and I'll share this with the woman I'm just talking about a few moments ago, and she would have this situation where something that she did not do, and she knew in her heart that she did not do this particular action, and yet her paramour, her significant other, would absolutely go after her, stating that she did do that action to the point where she believed it herself. Even though she was doubting her own will and her own willingness to understand and know the truth, she was listening to this individual because of the force that person had and the control that they had. So anytime that you are doubting yourself, this is where gaslighting comes into play. It is without a doubt the first and most significant sign. At Tiger Resilience, we have another course that we are developing right now that is specifically going to be about gaslighting and how to identify it and what to do to get out of it. And one of the key things in gaslighting is don't ever second doubt yourself. And we'll talk more about these in our solutions in our part 2 video. But I'd like to share this one little piece because it's such a significant challenge, gaslighting. If you ever doubt yourself, stand back from that situation and reassess and analyze. And understand too, if a person is really adamant that you did something that you know you didn't, what is the intention behind that individual? Are they confused? Did they make a mistake? Or is there some ulterior motive going on here? So it's important for you to understand gaslighting is, without a doubt, a major factor when it comes to dealing with emotional abuse, and is certainly the most common. So what's the second one? You feel responsible for somebody else's emotions. You come home, you're in a good mood, and the person that you're living with, the family member, whoever it may be, they're upset, they're angry, they're completely hostile, whatever it may be. And you come home and you're in a good mood. And all of a sudden you have to take ownership because, oh my gosh, this person isn't in a good mood. What can I do to cheer them up? I own this. The reason they're unhappy is because of me. It must have been something I did. If these sound like they even ring slightly true, this is another sign of emotional abuse. This is your cognition trying to take a rationalizing. And by the way, the word rationalize is 2 words. It's rational lies. We lie to ourselves to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. So once again, you're taking ownership of somebody else's emotions because you feel that you are the one and you're the reason they have that emotion, particularly if it's a negative emotion. So it is an absolute sign. If you are doing this, be aware of it. You're not responsible for somebody else's emotions. You're responsible for yourself. And that is what is going to be key. And you'll learn a little bit more about that in our next video when we talk about the 5 solutions. So what's the third one? You fear setting boundaries. This is particularly impactful at work, in a work environment, because people are, you spend a good period of your time working with individuals throughout your life in a full-time position. If you're working 40 hours or so a week, you spend a significant amount of time and they become almost family, right? And as a result of family, you get very close, sometimes unhealthy, and can be an unhealthy relationship in your closeness. But it becomes very difficult to set boundaries because you feel like, well, I'm always there. They come to me when I have an issue. As a program manager in a psychiatric hospital, I can identify this consistently because I will have staff come to me and I have a good relationship with them. And I feel that I can't say necessarily no all the time because I am not only so much a program manager and in a leadership role, but I want to empower them to reach their best. So I try to break down boundaries, but boundaries are an important part of our lives, and it's truly what keeps us safe. But in emotional abuse, individuals who are struggling with it do not have any boundaries. They stay in a relationship, and no matter what is going on, they can never use that 2-letter word, no. And it's the most impactful word you can use. We will talk at great length about that in our next video. So what is the next one? You struggle with self-worth. Now, this is something that you have to reflect on as an individual based on your own confidence levels and your own personal esteem. A lot of folks that have struggled with trauma in their childhood, I being one of them, had struggled with self-esteem issues for the longest time. So with that being said, self-esteem issues could be part of something that happened in our past, but self-doubt in yourself and your abilities and your competencies and your skill sets is absolutely a big piece when it comes to emotional abuse. Again, it's another level of control. This individual, this person who is in your life that is abusing you is trying to set in motion controls, and they don't want you to have any value of yourself. If they can devalue you, they can absolutely and positively have that control. Think of hostage situations, and we're not going to go deeply into this, but this is part of that criteria. They don't get close to it. They don't get close to the individuals whatsoever. They do not allow themselves that opportunity to have any self-worth. They make them feel less than a human being, and that is truly a sign, a very significant sign of emotional abuse. And what's the final one for us, at least for what we're talking about here? You feel isolated and emotionally drained. Isolation is one of the things that people who are in abusive relationships do first and foremost, both physical abuse and emotional abuse. The physical abuse is pretty self-explanatory. If somebody is being hurt, if there's violence being projected on an individual, that abuse leaves scars. It leaves, as we started this video, we talked about how emotional abuse does not leave actual bruises or physical scars, but they're internal. But a physical abuse does leave it. So what is the first thing that the abuser tries to do? Control them, keep them in their environment, isolate them from friends, from family, from relationships. Because if they find themselves in those situations where they've been abused and they've been injured, it gives them a chance to be able to let that person potentially heal and thus never have any explanation of why, hey, why is your cheek bruised? What's wrong with your arm? You got that bruise on your arm. It looks pretty significant. What happened to you? You know, those are very big pieces to it. And people that are being segregated from their friends, from their relationships, feel isolated and they feel alone. They feel all alone, which just makes it even more of a controlling environment for that person who is abusing you. Now, these are some pretty significant signs, and I want to share something. I want you to understand that this doesn't just mean that you're dealing with some very hardcore person who is abusing you emotionally. In many cases, it could be very slight. And let me explain myself. You can have an individual who themselves had struggled with emotional abuse growing up, and they may not know any better. They may not know that they're doing these particular things that are setting in motion this abuse on you. And this is a big key, because the difference between somebody you care for who just may have been struggling in their own stuff and they don't know how to communicate, this is what opens the door for you to have that communication. I'm a firm believer that we do not know what we do not know until we know it. And it's not a twist on words, it's truly an understanding. You can't know something until you really understand it and know it. Therefore, somebody who is dealing with emotional abuse from someone who themselves have dealt with it in their past, that individual who's abusing may not even know that they're doing that. And that's where communication comes into play, especially if it's an early set of a relationship. Now, I'm not really talking about families, because there's a whole lifelong amount of baggage that can sometimes comes with that. I'm really referring to mostly a relationship. Could be a new relationship, and all of a sudden you're noticing some things that fit any one of these 5 hidden dangers for you to be aware of, and you start questioning, hey, what's going on with this? Well, here's a point where you have that conversation, because I'm a firm believer, friends, that communication is without a doubt the most significant challenge we have in everything that's wrong with the human condition. Every single thing on our earth right now I can tie back to communication or lack thereof. So those are 5 hidden signs. In part 2 of this video, which will be coming out in a few days, we are going to be discussing the solutions, and we're going to get really deep into that, because those are big things that truly can help you change your life. These are fundamental things that once you identify there's a problem, now we need to work on a solution, right? Because the person who doesn't identify a problem, they just go along, right? You don't know any difference because you don't see a problem. Once you identify, and that's what this video is for, to help you to see and identify a problem. Once you have identified with that as a problem, now you have to take ownership and work on some solutions. So with that being said, please stay tuned for our next video, part 2 on this, when we will discuss what are the 5 specific solutions for somebody who is struggling with emotional abuse. And again, if this isn't you, but it sounds like somebody you love and care for, or a friend or a colleague at work, please pay attention to this and share this with them. Maybe that can open up a door where they can start looking at their lives differently. So again, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience. If you like any of this content and you find any value in it, please consider subscribing to our channel. Also, check out the links below, as I have a couple of workbooks that are part of this course that we're discussing right now. Meaning that so much that this is a discussion on emotional abuse. And a couple of those workbooks are available under the links below, no charge to you, because these are tools that are set in motion to help you overcome that. Because again, the start of this video, I discussed that there is such a significant issue with emotional abuse going on. And after all the years of me working in this field, specifically in behavioral health and human development, I'm so dumbfounded that this is still an issue, and that people are not able to identify with this. So please look into that links below for those workbooks. Again, my name is Bernie from Tiger Resilience, and here alongside of Michael Tiger, we help individuals reach your human potential. We look forward to seeing you and talking with you again very soon, and I do appreciate your time taking a moment out of your busy schedule to check this video out. Thank you once again, and I wish you nothing but the best in your journey today.